My name's Darren Ward. I'm the film director of Sudden Fury, A Day of Violence, and my new movie, Beyond Fury, my crime trilogy.
So, Darren, how did you first get into film?
It's a long story. I'll try and keep it, quite short-ish. As most kids, I grew up. I was born in 1973, so growing up when the early '80s hit, and VHS and Betamax and V2000, your first video players come out. My dad would record the Hammer movies that were always on late at night on a Friday or a Saturday, like your Draculas, your Frankensteins, and all the rest of it. And I'd come down on a Sunday morning and sit down and watch British horror movies, and then it wasn't long before the video nasties craze that swept the UK in the early to mid '80s, and then I'm sat down watching zombie flesh eaters and cannibal ferox and a lot of Italian crime movies, spaghetti westerns, you name it. It was there, so it really put a lot of different genres in the pot. And as a director, I guess I feed from what I grew up and what I loved watching. I started making films with a group of guys. Let's go back to 1989. It was my last year at school, and a local video rep, a school friend of mine, knew it was bringing in sort of under the counter copies of this movie and that movie, and of course, loving films. I met this guy, and he said, "Oh, right. Actually, there's a few friends of mine, all local, that are making a horror movie, and there's a guy that wants to be a special effects artist, and there's someone else, is a writer and a cameraman, and they're looking for victims for their zombie horror movie." So I kind of went down into Shirley in Southampton and met these group of guys and had my net cast, and a couple of weeks later, I'm having it bitten out, sort of like zombie flesh eaters style, blood going everywhere. Oh, it was great. I was 16 at the time. I was loving it. So I started really in the early 90s making, and late 80s making loads of short movies, and we did about 10 to 15 sort of short little action pieces, like, I guess gangsters and guns and blood, the sort of thing that I've obviously hold quite dear to me, because I've over the last 25 years I've made my own trilogy of crime movies.
So, did you have any reservations when you were going into making Sudden Fury?
So yeah, reservations going into my first feature, because it never set out to be a feature. Sudden Fury, as you see it now, was a continuation of a 17-minute short that I made for the British Amateur Video Awards, BAVA. It was hosted by Jeremy Beadle when it used to be up at Piccadilly. Got back from BAVA, a very highly commended judges award, and one of the comments was, "Oh, I personally would love to have seen where these characters went." So I started to write a continuation of what we already shot. That's how Sudden Fury was born, and it turned out to be an hour and 42 minutes. And no, I had no reservations. I was like, what at that time, 20, 22? No, I just jumped straight in, both feet first, and as always, and as I still do now, you go through your script and pick out stuff you can shoot, which is going to be the easiest and the cheapest. So you got the wheel turning, you've got something. You're not talking about shooting a movie. I've actually got some footage from it, So you pick out some stuff where you can shoot in a house, get your actors, get some dialogue scenes done.
And wherever Walker's hiding, he's going to find that no one fucks around him.
With a budget that's very tight, there's an expectation that some of the crew will have to take on different jobs. Like you said, Peter Dobson, who did the editing and was DOP. How many jobs did you have personally on Sudden Fury?
On Sudden Fury, well, I've got to think back now. Not as many as I've had on the last couple, because believe it or not, we had a sort of kind of bigger bigger crew on Sudden Fury.
Mm.
But no, I mean, I was writer, producer, director on the set where, I'm running around picking people up from train stations. I still do that now, taking them to wherever they got to go to, sorting out the catering, what people listening to this will laugh and what catering if they've been on one of my sets. But no, we do feed them. But just so many, grip, setting up, helping Pete set up lights, just doing it. You just do everything. When you got all that energy and you haven't got hundreds of thousands of pounds behind you and you don't have 80 people milling around, sort of each one's got their own department. No, everyone just mucks in, and that's what's great about, I guess, one of the pros of independent filmmaking is, you pick your cast and your crew wisely. We have such a laugh, mate, doing the movies. All the photos, all full of people. We have a great time. Okay, there's not times when people feel, oh Christ, he's not phoning me up again, is he, to get me on another movie? But no, we have a great fun making these films.
I heard you say on the movie commentary for Sudden Fury that you were inspired by Sergio Leone. You told me that. Is there anyone else? Give me a top 5 just so we can keep it tight. Top 5.
Top 5 directors I was inspired with at the time of making Sudden Fury would be Lucio Fulci, Sergio Leone, Dario Argento, Ruggiero Deodato, Umberto Lenzi.
So what's the casting process like for your first feature? Do you know any of the actors personally?
Yeah, with Sudden Fury, I had been to college with Nick Rendell, and we made the short movie called Blue Fear. It's like a 70-minute giallo that we made in 1993. And so I knew Nick well, I'd already worked with him on Blue Fear, and then he was playing Walker in Bitter Vengeance. So when we slipped into making Sudden Fury, we were already on the third sort of film together. And we laugh at it now. I mean, don't quote me on this, but we laugh like with the Scorsese De Niro of independence. We just like the same leading man director all the time. But it's the same with a lot of the, not just with Nick, with other cast members that you see pop up, like Victor D. Fawns is in the trilogy, and you'll see other people popping up once, twice. You get to work with people and you know what they can do, and if there's a character that they can fit, then I'm going to give people that I enjoy working with that opportunity, and they're great. The hours they've all given me for free, over 25 years, I couldn't even count. But casting process outside of people, I mean, with Sudden Fury, the best thing that we came up with was radio and the local echo. So I did a BBC Solent interview saying that we're looking for actors and actresses to fit this particular character type, and we were talking about the movie. And I had with Sudden Fury, we'd sort of have a weekly meet with actors and actresses at the Cowherds, the pub down off the avenue. And we'd sort of meet in the back room there, and we'd do little screen tests, or just literally sitting down and having a good chat over a pint with someone and going through character. And I wouldn't dream of Freddie.
My plan is to hire Walker to take out Paris.
For such a low budget movie, this has a lot of locations. How did you find these places, firstly? And do you have a starter guide on location releases?
For Sudden Fury, it was 15,500.
Yeah.
So it was, it's peanuts. Locations, right. Well, I guess really, it's when you're driving around. You might, even now, I'm driving around and I see some abandoned factory or house.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's very abandoned, isn't it? A lot of them.
Yeah. We were very lucky, because where we shot the shootout sequence with Warbeck in the warehouse, where he does the handover with Walker and it all kind of kicks off, that was all chained up, all locked up with demolition. and it was due to get knocked down. It got knocked down like 2 weeks after we were out of there. So literally, in that case, I just phoned up the demolition company and said, look, you know, I'm a independent film maker. I've got no money, but I can see you're going to knock this down. We'd love to get in there. And they were just like, yeah, fine, you know, just get in. So in the end, they didn't even bother coming down, unlocking everything. I had to phone him and say, well, how do I get in? He said, just cut the chains. So we cut the chains and in we went. And you know, I think we shot in that warehouse for, it was like 6 days over 3 weekends to get that 5 minute sort of shootout sequence. But yeah, and like again, back in the day, I mean, it wasn't. Again, now it's so much easier. You even got forums, websites now where you can look for specific locations. You know, but my philosophy in life, and especially when making these films, is if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah.
What are people going to say? They're going to say yes or no. So still now, even with just jumping onto Beyond Fury, you see that £10.5 million mansion that we shoot in with the F1 McLaren car. You know, I drive past. I live nearby, and I drove past, rung the doorbell, walked up to the front door, and said, "Can I shoot at your place? It's amazing." And they just said yes. Don't ask, don't get.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. But but yeah, I mean, being practical about it, there are so many websites now where you can Google film locations and you'll choose which part of the country, which part of Europe. But you know, they come with a price tag. For example, you know, I looked into filming on whether it was the set for Casualty or not for Beyond Fury up in London, where they got the whole hospital layout where you can rent it by the hour.
Yeah.
Only like 15 grand an hour. I'm not going to do that. So I'm lucky. The day job is IT for the NHS. So I just asked the hospital manager, can I shoot in the hospital? What do you want to film? So told him what we're going to shoot, and that's it. I got in, no release forms, no nothing. It's just thank you at the end on the credits.
Make sure if you enjoyed that you check out part 2 where Darren and I go on to discuss his 2010 film A Day of Violence.